Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Power of Attorney. I am your host, Latanya Moore. So today we are going to be talking about the top 5 reasons that you need a collaboration agreement right now. Top 5 reasons that you need a collaboration agreement right now. Again, guys, thank you so much for joining me. I am very excited about today's show because I've had so many questions. I did a webinar the other night, and then after the sponsorship agreement where I mentioned a couple things, I've had people say, Latanya, please, please, please do a show about collaboration agreements. So here it is. I want you guys to share this video because we are going to be talking about, I'm going to be sharing with you the top 5 reasons that you need a collaboration agreement right now. This is extremely important so that you know what to do, when to do it, how to do it. Okay. And also, just to let you know, I am, just as always, I'm going to be making sure that you have access to the resources that you need when we're looking at the collaboration agreements, right? So I'm just going to jump right in again. As people join, thank you so much for being a part of Power of Attorney. I'm excited about today's show because I've had at least 7 or 8 people since the other day ask me to do a show about collaboration agreements. And so I want to make sure that I'm doing what you guys need. So first of all, what is a collaboration agreement? And good morning, everyone. What is a collaboration agreement? You want to use a collaboration agreement when you are doing a joint event or a joint project with someone else. So that's a joint event or a joint project with someone else. Now, let me tell you why I want to take this time up front to talk about this. This is not the same as a joint venture, right? Because a joint venture is a really a legal entity. So that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about the situation where you may be doing a conference, you may be doing a workshop, you may be doing some other type of project that you're just collaborating with this particular company or individual, and you need an agreement in place. Now, I know some of you are saying, well, we just decide among ourselves what we're going to do and how we're going to split the money and who's going to pay for what. That's all well and good until something bad happens, right? That's all well and good, and as long as there's a honeymoon going on. But what about when something happens? How are you going to handle that? For those of you that have been a part of any of my webinars on this topic and anything when I'm talking about dealing with people, I always say at a minimum, you must have a collaboration agreement. On one of the webinars that I did, actually Wednesday night, I did a webinar. One of the things that someone asked about was a memorandum of understanding, because they do have a process, which is great, right? They have an encapsulation of the agreement. But here's the thing about a memorandum of understanding and why I do not recommend them. I don't recommend them because, one, in the legal community, it's not really considered a contract. Number two, a memorandum of understanding is really just a written document that says this is what we talked about orally. So it doesn't talk about a lot of the things that I'm going to tell you are the top 5 reasons that you need a collaboration agreement. And I'm giving you guys the opportunity to share this video because this is very important information, number one. Number two, this video comes down at 8 p.m. Central Standard Time, okay? The video will not be up forever, so you need to go ahead and encourage your people right now to watch the replay very quickly, okay? Any giveaways that we do today, same thing. They're only available while the video is up. All right, guys, we're at 9:05, which is our time to just jump right in. I am going to share with you guys some top 5 reasons that you need a collaboration agreement right now. One of the things is who has the authority to bind, right? The binding authority. That means who's the decision maker? Who is the person that has the authority to contract with your vendors, right? With your speakers, with your venue. Who has that authority, right? Because also with that authority, you understand comes responsibility, either for payment or if there's non-payment, what happens there? So that's one of the major things the reasons that you need, because you don't want to be in a situation where you have some speaker come to you and say, well, I was supposed to get paid $1,000, LaTanya. So-and-so said that you were going to pay me, or that I was going to get paid. No, I don't know anything about that, right? So you got to have in your agreement who has the authority to bind, and what does that mean, right? What does it mean with the binding authority? Number 2, liability, right? Who's responsible for things like payment, right? Who's responsible for things like, what if somebody gets hurt, right? Who's responsible for all of that? What are the requirements that you're going to put in place? Okay, you got to talk about that, and you can talk about it all day long, but at the end of the day, you really, really, really need to have this contract in place for that purpose. Now, again, there are more than 5 reasons that you need a collaboration agreement. There are more than 5 things that are included within a collaboration agreement. These are the top 5, because these are the things that people fight about. These are the things that cause issue. These are the things that if anything goes down, it's going to be one of these top 5 or a combination, right? So number 2 is really about liability. Number 3, which is what I see more often than not, is investment, right? Who is paying for what, right? And how's payment going to be made? Is it, well, you're responsible for the venue, so you're also responsible for payment. You're responsible for marketing, so you're also responsible for payment. Is it we're going to jointly decide who's going to pay for what, and then we're going to split it down the middle? Like, what is it, right? Because it could be any of those things. Understand, when you are doing something collaboratively with people, it could be any of those things. So you need to understand, you got to have that in there. Get a collaboration agreement. And as always, do not go online and get a canned agreement. I'm telling you, it is not going to have all of these things in there. It's just not. It's not going to have everything in there. So this is why I'm telling you, if you decide that you want to do a DIY collaborative agreement, you need to get a sample from someone that you know has a proven, trusted source, right? Someone that you know as a proven, trusted source. You need to make sure that you do that. So just for purposes for the people that join really quickly, we talked about number 1, right, being the authority to bind. That's one of the reasons. And these reasons are not in order of importance. It's just in there, right? So you got to have the authority to bind. We also talked about liability, right? Who's responsible for what? We also talked about investment. Who's paying for what? And along with investment, guys, comes down to profits and losses. How are we sharing the profits, and how are we sharing the losses? And guess what? What bank account are the electronic funds going into? Right? I'm telling you, most of your canned agreements are not going to address some of those things, right? It's going to be very boilerplate. So these are the things that I think you need to really understand, you really need to know, you really need to think about. The next one, which is usually, right, the next category of when people end up coming to me, is ownership, right? Who owns the name? Who owns the other intellectual property that's created as part of this conference, part of this event? Who owns the logo, right? What about further use? What about moving forward, right? How are we moving forward if this is something that we created together? What if it's something that, hey, I don't really like working with you anymore, but I love this concept and I want to continue, right? So ownership is very important, making sure that the intellectual property rights are clearly delineated in your collaboration agreement. Anybody that works with me on these, this is something that my clients get this standard, because I work with a lot of small and micro businesses that do a lot of collaboration, whether on events and projects. This is a standard agreement that they all have access to. And the reason that I give all of them access to that is because there is a high degree of these sorts of things, right? People working together, people trying to decide how they're going to do something. They want to save money. They want to put networks together. The other thing too is who owns the list, right? Who owns the list? Or do you guys own it? You know, shared ownership. All of these things are vital. All of these things are very important. The very last one, which people never talk about. That's why I want to tell you guys about it. How are you going to resolve a dispute, right? If there's an issue, if there's a dispute that comes up, how are you going to resolve it, right? Because if you don't talk about that up front, then there really is no recourse more than likely except litigation, right? Litigation is very costly. If you didn't know, it is extremely costly, and you do not want to be in a position where now you are having to litigate something that you could have actually planned for an alternative in your contract up front that would be less costly, right? So there are lots of different ways that you can do it. It just comes down to, what do you do, right? What do you agree to? So again, I want to thank all of you for being a part of Power of Attorney. You need to share this video. Again, for those of you that are just joining, this video actually is only going to be up until this evening, right? And then we're going to take it down. But for those of you that find yourself in a position, or you know that throughout the year you do collaborations with other people and you would like to have a collaboration agreement, I will tell you now that typically my collaboration agreements run from a minimum of $750 all the way up to $1,275. For those of you that are watching this video, either live or on the replay, you can get a sample collaboration agreement from me for $127, right? Which is about 10% of what I normally would charge on the high end, which means that it's a high grade sample that you have, and it pretty much has the kitchen sink in there. There is a link in the description for you to be able to go directly to that. It is where it says get the collaboration agreement deal. You have to click there. Again, that deal is only going to be available while this video is available for those of you that are watching it openly here on my page. For those of you that are members of my 360 Brand Protection Facebook group, which there's a link in the description as well, the video and the offer will actually be up until tomorrow. So the offer, the opportunity will be up until tomorrow. For everybody else, it's actually going to be over this evening. So again, I want to thank you guys for supporting Power of Attorney. I want to thank you guys for sending me these topics that you'd like for me to go over. Please keep sending those either to my inbox or go to my website, LaTonyaMoore.com, and send those topics there. Again, top 5 reasons that you need a collaboration agreement. I'm going to give you the list real quickly in no order, and it's not necessarily the order that I did them in today. Number 1, what are you going to do about the investment, the financial investment, the sweat equity investment? How are you going to deal with profit and losses? Number 2, what about liability, right? Who's responsible? Number 3, ownership. Who owns what? And what about further use? How are you going to deal with the intellectual property situation? Number 4, who has the authority to bind, right? We talked about what that was. Who has the authority to bind? And number 5, dispute resolution. How are you going to resolve things when there is a dispute? How are you going to resolve it? So again, thank you guys so much for being a part of Power of Attorney. If you want to take advantage of today's offer, there's a link in the description section. If you want to take advantage of being a member of the closed 360 Brand Protection Facebook group, you can also get there from that link. Listen, guys, you must answer the questions to be approved for the group. You must answer the questions to be approved for the group. We are not going to approve you if you just click join, because that group, the 360 Brand Protection group, is for legacy builders. It's for the serious business owners that are looking to get their business structured the right way, position their business for growth, so that their grandchildren's grandchildren, right, will be able to grow and build. So again, thank you guys so much for being a part of Power of Attorney. I am encouraging you to purchase the collaboration agreement, because I know that if you don't already have one in place, that you are definitely an entrepreneur that needs it. So again, thank you so much for being a part of Power of Attorney. So until next week, have a great brand building weekend.